Good evening, everybody. I've been gone for quite a while now. It's been kind of crazy dealing with everything that's been going on in the house and with all of the changes that have come in. And it's not just the garden, which is also equally doing quite well. We're down to peppers and okra and a couple eggplants here and there. So I guess we'll see how long all that continues to go. We're still waiting on the heat to kick in, and the heat really hasn't kicked in this year. I know some of the northern states, it gets into the 90, 95, and they're like, it's hot. But here you don't really start complaining about the heat not letting the garden grow until you hit the hundreds, 110. And it just hasn't really gotten that way. We've got a big old fat watermelon over here. So those actually bothered to grow this year. That's been nice. But that's not really why I'm here tonight. We had a major change come in, and one of those changes was my stepson, my husband's child. He moved in with us, and it has been quite an adjustment. He has some handicaps from a stroke that he had. I'm not going to say too much because it's not really my story. What's been going on is my story, but his story is not my story. So he had a stroke, and with that, there is a few physical limitations, and it caused some damage to the right side of his brain. So there is some, I guess you would say, a little bit of slower mental recognition on the right side. So anyway, it covers a whole array of things. But I've had some frustrations because I'm not the most patient person. And this is, I've dealt with this my whole life. This is one of those struggles with having kids that, saying no and redirecting. And these are things that just go on and on and on. And it seems to have no end sometimes. And we pick our kids up and we move them out of the way and so on and so forth. And so over time, you get to build patience. That's just the way it is. I mean, if you want to raise healthy kids, then you practice patience. And where my patience always failed was after you understood that it was no, and then you still wanted to test the boundary. Now we reached into it's on territory. And this comes into a struggle because we have his son that's moved in with us, and I'm happy to have him here. He's super sweet. As a matter of fact, I'm snacking on some peanut M&Ms he bought for himself and shared with his dad. So I stole a few of those. Maybe I'm not the nicest, but he's a sweet kid. He really is. He most of the time has the sweetest intentions. But one thing we're really having a struggle with is him taking care of himself and wanting to go take a bath and wanting to get his laundry done. And we had a long talk today, and he said, well, those things just aren't fun. And you're right. Technically speaking, maybe they're not fun. And so we ended up working out where we are going to move into a star chart. And it seems kind of childish at first. I mean, you think, oh, well, I did that with my 3-year-old. Well, nobody ever did this with this kid. And he's grown now. But he doesn't see the reward in taking care of himself. He thinks that there's nothing that comes back to him that's good if he takes care of himself. And, I guess I thought of it from an adult perspective. And at first, I guess it doesn't seem like you get a reward, right? You get up, you get dressed, you change your clothes, you brush your teeth, you comb your hair. But I explained, it is a reward. And the reward is tomorrow, why don't you wake up and put your dirty clothes on from the day before and see how sweaty they are from you being outside all day. And then you'll appreciate the fact that you washed your laundry and bothered to take care of yourself. And that seems like it's just a small thing to thank yourself for. But, if you're really struggling with things like taking care of yourself, be grateful. Be grateful you washed your laundry. Be grateful you heated up some food and you were able to have a meal today. Because going hungry and wearing dirty clothes doesn't feel good. But I digress. So we working out to have a star chart. And at the end of the month or the week or however we work it out, then he gets a reward. And he was like, wait a second, I kind of like that idea. I thought, well, okay, maybe we might be onto something. I don't know yet. I'll get back to you. But for right now, we have a plan. But then it made me think that he had a stroke when he was little. Like, he was 11. It doesn't seem little until your baby has a stroke. And then, like, that's terrible. And yeah, they're a baby. They're small. They haven't even had a chance to do anything with themselves yet. Or even make a mistake or not make a mistake. Whatever it was. They didn't have a chance to graduate. Didn't have a chance to have a career. Nothing that the grandfather that you hear about having a stroke got to have all of those things before he got to have a stroke. So he hasn't done anything. And it seems from the place that he came from, the idea was, oh, well, he has some handicaps, so we're just not going to bother him anymore. We're not going to require that he do anything. We're not going to require a contribution, community or self-contribution, anything, just nothing. And there was an ask to take out the garbage. But there was no thank you. There was no applause. There was no star chart. There was no, hey, let's sit down and enjoy a family dinner together and just have some peace. It was just go to your room. And it breaks my heart because now I'm stuck in limbo. I'm stuck in limbo with the kid who is capable of doing things on his own. But I have to be patient because he hasn't been required to do things on his own. There has been no typical childhood applause for taking care of these small behaviors that should have been learned since they were tiny. There's been, here's your video game, here's your cell phone, stay out of my hair, don't talk to me. It angers me. I don't even know what to say half the time whenever I get feedback from him on things that have been going on or happened in the past, or even in the present from a recent visit. I am by no means a shining star example of a mom or stepmom. I mean, sometimes I'm probably the scary mom / stepmom to everyone in the house. But let's not forget that people with handicaps still have feelings, they still have needs, they still have goals, they still have a whole life ahead of them that even though it may look different, there may be, things may move slower or it may take longer to reach a goal, but the goals still need to be there. There's still the psychology behind having, or not even have, but behind being a human being. He didn't stop being a human being just because one side of his brain doesn't fully function. And after staring and watching and having plenty of discussions, I don't even think that's the case. I think his brain can work. It just hasn't been worked. And we don't think about these things. Maybe most of the parents, I don't know, some other parents realize that, well, even though my kid has a disability, he still has needs and he still needs to do something with himself instead of rotting away in his room playing video games. But to the parents who are just letting their child rot for no reason, just know that he or she is sitting there just waiting to have a purpose. I'm just so sad when when I'm having to train basic life skills to somebody who shouldn't have had this struggle to begin with. And things are hard enough whenever a young child has to accept the fact that they almost died. They have to accept the fact that any plan that they had going into the future has now been squashed and a whole new plan has to be made. He starts therapy on Saturday, and I'm hoping with the star chart implementation and the therapy that gets started that maybe he's not going to open up right away, but I hope and I pray that he starts to open up and the therapist can help get to the bottom of what his needs might be, or what he needs to go to in the future, so that we can more design a lifestyle for him that more closely matches who he is and who his personality is. But guys, please don't just assume that just because somebody has a handicap that they just want to sit in the corner of the room and be ignored. Don't assume that their video games are really giving them all that they need because, oh, well, their brain's not fully functioning, so therefore they're worthless. They still need a hug. They still need conversation. They still need to learn how to socialize. They still need manners. They still need to have respect for themselves and others. They're people too. I don't even know why we're treating them as though they're second-class citizens or they're robots. I have no idea. I have no idea what the thought process is, but just stop it, please. For crying out loud. If you don't want the hassle of taking care of somebody with a disability, that is absolutely your right. You can choose to have someone else do the job, but for crying out loud, just for their sake, just have somebody else do the job. Don't sit there and think, oh, well, I'm getting a check, so they can just go to their room and I'm spending my check. It's not your check. It's not just your money. If they're paying you rent, if they're paying for the light bill, if they're paying for their own phone bill, you're in charge of another life. They're not dead. They didn't die just because they had an injury, a brain injury, a leg injury, a back injury. They're still human beings, and they still need to learn, and they still need to function, and they still may have mental health issues that need to be attended to. They still may need medications to help them cope. Any number of things that could still be true. But please stop this idea that just because somebody's handicapped means that they don't have needs. So starting this week, probably later in the week, we're going to put together the star chart and a reward system. And I just feel like we're kind of starting over with him, and we're going back to childhood times for things that should have been taught and learned. We're literally having to start over. Reward systems for chores, and reward system for goals being met, and a physical display of Sumo. A physical display of accomplishments so he can relearn or learn these behaviors again. And we'll see what happens. I'm hoping between that and therapy, we really get pushed into a more mature level here and get things started. If not, it doesn't mean we stop trying. It doesn't mean that we don't set smaller goals and try to attain them. So thanks for being here, guys. Hopefully more people come out to watch the video. Hopefully somebody sees that maybe they're feeling at a loss. Maybe they need to do something different with their lives, or with somebody that they're having to take care of on a regular basis. And then maybe by doing that, just maybe, they can watch the video and they can just feel motivated to get on top of this and to help their person, because he or she is a human being, and they do have a heart, and they do want to do better. Have a good night, y'all.